Marcus, for the 5 people in Melbourne that don't know you, I might let you do a little briefing bio on yourself, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a director here of Marshall White, have been now for near on a decade. I've been in the industry for about 15 years. I've sort of come from a background in the building industry, which I know you want to touch on later.
Yes.
But I've got an effective business unit at the moment of 6 people. I started off as an individual salesperson, and then brought on an executive assistant, then transformed to a PA, then a buy PA, then a fully fledged agent.
Yes.
And then continually grew the team, particularly over the past 8 or 9 years.
Right.
And going from writing sort of $400,000 or $500,000 in GCI to now having a unit where we finished the year at 5.2. So it's just evolved and grown over that past 8 or 9 years.
That is awesome. Thank you. That is amazing. Approaching 5.2.
That's where we finished the calendar year.
Finished the calendar year. Very good. Marcus, there are many agents who are watching this program.
Mm-hmm. They
aspire to sell real estate in upper echelons, a la Toorak, Armidale, etc. They may be very good handling listings that are around the 500 to 700 circa. They are looking for probably a little bit more sizzle, probably inspired by the $1 million listing programs and all the glossy YouTube stuff that's available now. What sort of mindset would an agent wanting to make a transition to an area like Armidale or Toorak? What disciplines, how would that differ from working in, for example, we'll pick a suburb like Noble Park. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, I think as an organisation operating in these key areas, we've had quite a few very successful agents come from other areas that were operating at a beyond a mediocre level that have transitioned into these areas and flourished, and are now directors of our business too.
Right.
One being Dwayne Wallowick, another one being Stuart Evans, and both very close friends of mine. That one came from the Dandenongs and the other one came from Brunswick. So two very different areas that have been successful in their own right coming over here, but bringing the same skill set. They already, before they stepped through the door, had the right frame of mind, the right skill set, but all it was a matter of product knowledge. So it was about building relationships, and that's what I think ultimately most agents need to do, is focus on the relationship rather than the deal. You focus on the deal, it's a very short-term mentality, and they knew that they had to build. They had to build a good quality following, a good quality database. But I think their attitudes, and likewise with me, I came to this area from an adjacent area, but they're vastly different in terms of the demographic of people that we deal with.
Yes.
It's about having the right attitude, having the right attitude, the right disciplines, being very structured, and just doing that and forming those habits consistently over a long period of time. I look at the success that I've had as an individual and as an organisation, and likewise with quite a few of my colleagues that have made that transition. So irrespective of where you've come from, it's really what's between your ears is the most important thing. Everything else can be learnt. Prices, values, streets, and building databases and building connections, relationships. It's all about, I think, very much keeping an open mind when coming to these areas, not being daunted by it, because some people get really daunted and intimidated by the zeros on the end of our sale prices.
Yes.
But the dynamics are still the same. The vendor's expectations are still the same from you as if it's 500,000 or 5 million. The buyer's expectations are exactly the same. The dynamics of the process are exactly the same.
Right.
But it's usually the agent gets caught up in the zeros and gets intimidated or flustered by it and actually feels that they can't do it.
Well, you've only got to drive down St George's Parade and have a look at these monster homes and say,
correct,
can I do this? I mean, you must have at some point said, can I do this, before you're making that transition like you mentioned?
When I first came to this area,
yes,
absolutely daunting. I would loathe to go and knock on a door or speak to an owner, and you'd feel like a timid little puppy in front of them, thinking, I don't actually deserve to be here. And that's the attitude sort of some agents have, particularly in those embryonic years. I think you need to lose that. And I wish I lost that earlier on. Think, hang on a minute, I'm sitting across the table from a human being. Okay, their bank balance might look a little bit different, the house might look a little bit different. But what happens in this house is exactly what happens in my house, but on a grander scale. They still live here, they still sleep here, they still eat here, they still communicate with their family. It's still a home, but it's just much bigger and grander in many scales. I think once you pare all that back, it just comes back to, once again, the relationship.
Yeah, very good.
And A and B, I should say. A, having the right skill set.
Yes.
And B, not being intimidated by it. That you break all that down, and it just comes back to the relationship you can build and the communication level with that person.
Very good. Well said. At earlier days, did you do any door knocking? You mentioned it.
Plenty.
You did.
Still do it.
You still do it?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Door knocked the house yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, and it's usually when you get you get wind of a potential opportunity. I've always had the mentality, which I've inbred within my team, is that a buyer takes up half the deal.
Yeah.
So focus on your buyers as much as you do with your chase list or hot listings.
Yeah.
And if we've got a really specific buyer that we know what they're after, go and find it.
Very
Go and
good.
find it, because there's always people that are prepared to sell.
Yep.
For a particular price.
So you're unlocking listings as
Yes.
a result of having the buyers that want to work with you?
Bring the listing forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they might not be thinking of selling, but if we knock on the door and say, hey, what if, the possibility of, very hypothetical, and it actually sometimes, one or two things that happen, people go, you know what, we actually weren't thinking of doing this for probably a year or so, but you know what, given the markets at the moment, it's quite strong, we don't know how long that's going to last for, maybe we do capitalise on it now, provided it's really discreet. And that happens quite frequently. And some of the best deals have occurred through door knocks.
Marcus, is that because the buyer has a fear of loss and doesn't want to see the property go to the market, perhaps?
They don't want anyone else to see it.
Right.
Yeah.
So they'll pay a premium and enter into a strong negotiation?
Correct, absolutely.
And that's where your skill obviously comes into it?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the time, it's put to a buyer at a price, and it's not a price to be discussed. It's a response to be yes or no. It's either yours at this price, or it's not yours at all.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Because we've gone to the owner to try and extract them to sell for this particular buyer, based on their needs, based on their motivation. It's usually motivation that drives it.
Yes.
And based on probably their frustration of not being able to find anything. Because we've got people that, and I'm sure it's the same in your market, that not only have been looking months, but perhaps years for something that we've found for them.
Absolutely, in that right street, that right precinct where they've been desperately wanting to get into.
Correct.
It's tightly held.
And I think they know in their own mind that it's not a 5-year home. It's 10, 15, 20 years. So let's get in now, let's settle down, let's stop the search.
Very good. Now, you've touched 5.2 mil last year.
Yep.
That's up there with the best in the country.
Yep.
Do you count where you are ranked? Does it matter to you where you are ranked? Are you competitive enough to want to be up there in that top 2% of the country?
Yeah, without doubt. I think the acknowledgement sometimes is better than the financial reward. To know that you are, when you're measured against others within the industry. But I look at things such as the REB rankings, and agencies like our agency pick a few from our agent to submit, like all others. But I'm sure there's others out there that are unrecognised that are performing at similar levels. So I take those rankings that are out there, whether it be Rate My Age, whatever it may be, with a grain of salt. And I think early on, it's an ego thing.
Yes.
I don't want to be ranked and recognised as one of the best.
Yes.
But then ultimately, I think it's recognised based on your performance out in the market anyway.
Okay.
And it might not be at a national level, but it might be at a very micro level in your core areas. But that's what really counts. It really does.
Yeah. That's
I've heard of, there was a particular agent in Sydney. Who's never been featured on any of the rankings. And from led to believe, with some recent discussions, that his GCI for the financial year was 14 million.
Really?
Yeah.
Similar marketplace, perhaps?
Yeah, high-end marketplace in Sydney.
Right.
And you look at that and think, but he doesn't.
It's not important to him.
The humility is more important than people recognising that he's written a certain amount of business.
Yeah, that is huge, isn't it?
Phenomenal.
So you're trying to catch up to him?
Absolutely now.
Good for you. Good for you. So $1 million listings New York, $1 million listing $1 million listing Melbourne, Australia, and would you contend to cast for that show if there was?
The short answer is no. I'd have no interest whatsoever in being on it. I think that unlike the guys in the US, the US population, they crave fame. They're very open door to having cameras in their house and following their lives, where I think particularly in Australia and more so Melbourne, it's a very private, when real estate's being transacted, people don't want their faces on camera. We deal with people, it's absolute confidentiality.
Makes sense.
There was inquiries 2.5 years ago about trying to get something like that, and there was a production company that made contact.
Yes.
And I said, that's exactly that, and they approached me about that.
Yeah.
And I said, look, this is what you'll find. mind. I said, look, happy to be proven wrong.
Yes.
But if you explore it in the market, you tend to find that Australia is much different, particularly Melbourne, than perhaps what you see in the US.
Yes.
And within 3 weeks, they come back and said, you're exactly right. The participants, in terms of clientele, is very minimal. Sydney's probably the only place where it would get some traction in Australia. A little bit, the Sydney side is a little bit more flamboyant than the conservative Melburnians. But I think, look, it's a great show. They write some unbelievable fees. But I think you only see the tip of the iceberg in a lot of those shows. That's the thing.
Do you are you inspired, or do you get any benefit from watching those shows in terms of some dialogue, etc., some anything at all, like apart from the connection that you have with some of the...
Interesting enough, you do. I think you pick up every now and then might be a particular language they use in terms of terminology of things. That's actually quite good because putting aside the entertainment, I think number one's the entertainment factor, and two is you pick up a few things along the way. They're few and far between, but I think anything that can differentiate you as an agent with your dialogue, because we all hear the top trainers in Australia, and then what happens is all the agents sound like all the top trainers in Australia, mixed.
Like parrots.
Absolutely. And the only thing that will differentiate you is being different, but in the right way. So there's some language I think you pick up on that are really, really good. But Josh and Matt Oldman, who I know really well, they're here in 3 weeks.
Are they your favourites?
Oh, they have to be because I know them really well. I connected with Josh about 7 years ago, and
how did that come about?
I just made contact with him. Literally the first time
you reached out.
I reached out to him at the time, and he said, "Look," I said, "I was heading over to LA 2 days later." He said, "Look, welcome. Come over. Let's have a chat." And no one from Australia ever connected with him before, and we caught up. And he said, "Look, an hour. We'll catch up. We'll have a coffee, maybe a bite to eat."
This is in LA.
This is in Beverly Hills.
Beverly Hills, right?
So we went out to lunch. 4 hours later, we're still sitting there.
How cool is that?
He was more interested in what happens he couldn't get over Australian real estate, the auction system, particularly in Melbourne. He just couldn't fathom it. Our vendors paying for advertising, all these sorts of stuff. He was intrigued. And then it evolved. And we caught about another 2 days later, and he took me on a bit of a tour of some houses. And then I've been back 3 times. He's been over here 3 times. We've spoken together on a couple of Australian speaking engagements.
Awesome.
And then we're actually working on a conjunctional listing here in Melbourne that we're going to launch in about 3 weeks' time.
Wow.
That's where Josh is coming over. We're having sort of a launch dinner party with Josh. And then he'll do some promotion of the property back in LA.
Very cool.
Very
cool. 7 years ago when you connected with Josh and Matt, was that a point in your career when you needed to go, when you were prepared mentally to take it to that next level, or was that things were bubbling along nicely for you?
It was starting to bubble, and I recognised at the time and saw his journey coming from a financial background and what he was doing. And the question I asked, which sort of still resonates today, is he built a relationship base, being a client base, purely on those that would amplify his business. And what I mean by that is people that are in a circle of influence that would connect him to similar people, player managers, celebrity managers. He really focused on those circles.
He hustled with those individuals.
And built great relationships with them. Then the listings came. So he said, look, I didn't want to be everything to anyone. I wanted to be specifically targeted high-end listings in my core area, similar to what I do. And I really build relationships with the influential people in my market. And that's where the majority of my listings come from, referrals. The phone rings to me more than I ring out, so to speak, when chasing business. And that was modelled on what Josh did. And it was really smart for actually, what he's done. He's just gone to the people that can really amplify the business in a shorter period of time rather than trying to build those individual relationships.
Very, very clever, isn't it?
Really clever.
That is smart networking.
Correct. And that's what it comes down to. And look, it may not be relative for every single market in our nation. But there's an element of it. Whether it's the networking at the Surf Lifesaving Club.
The principles.
Absolutely. Principles. Absolutely.
Don't vary in different suburbs, irrespective of what the median price is, perhaps.
Correct.
Correct. Very good. So that flight to LA and Beverly Hills was worth it. It paid off. Just by that information.
It was a holiday anyway. It did. It absolutely paid off in spades.
Awesome. Are you allowed to disclose the most expensive home that you've sold?
I can.
It doesn't have to be about
address.
the client's address.
It was Just under 29 million.
29 million.
Yep.
How close to your office?
A couple of kilometres. And that was one that was completely off market. It was once again matching a buyer to a particular property that wasn't available.
Yes.
And it all tied in together.
Well done.
And that was last year. It hasn't been publicly disclosed anywhere.
Yeah.
But unbelievable house. So we've had.
When you say unbelievable, what elements of the house was unbelievable? Because I know there's people here that freak out about that sort of stuff. I'd love to know.
It was an acre and a half of these beautiful sort of heritage gardens. The house itself is an older style home that had been renovated, sort of sympathetic to its era.
Yes.
You'd almost get lost in it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just big and rambling.
Grand.
Yeah, it was
classic. Turek.
Absolutely timeless.
Is it Turek?
Turek, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely timeless.
Well
But then. I look at the year before we were fortunate enough to sell a property in Towers Road that sold for just over 26 million. That was a really contemporary custom built home.
Okay.
Earlier that year, just around the corner in Robertson Street for just over 24 million.
Okay.
Which once again was a custom built home. It was built never to be sold, but it was only because they relocated back to San Francisco that they came onto the market. So within a 12-month period, we had 3 transactions between basically 20 and 29.
Yep.
So it was an amazing sort of 12-18-month period of those sales. There hasn't been as many. I think there's been one transaction in excess of 20 in Melbourne the past 12 months.
Yeah.
But there's more to follow. That's the moment.
The market's still going up in this area.
They're so hard to find.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Would a sale result like that unlock other business for you, given that that's such an exceptional price?
Absolutely.
It would.
Just by default. And it's interesting. A few people have made contact with me just because there's a recognition now that we've handled out of the last 6 sort of sales that have been 20 or greater, we've handled 5, and that's in the recent years. So people recognise, okay, well, he's doing something right.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily the brand, it's the person. Yeah. So I'll get those phone calls. Yeah. And it might be people that aren't ready to sell now, but they're ready to sell at some point in time.
Yeah. And those clients have got confidence in you based on the results that you can facilitate the right buying process with those types of high-end buyers.
Correct.
Awesome.
And whether it's done publicly or discreetly.
You've got those processes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, correct. Well done.
Yeah.
With regards to paper advertising out in the southeastern suburbs, northern suburbs, western suburbs, there is a trend that it's on the decline.
Yep.
So we can sell listings pretty much just by your traditional internet marketing or off market with your database like you are.
Yep.
But yet we see the inner papers still thick and consistent and glossy and full page.
Yep.
Why is that?
It's a really good question because I'm not sure what you guys are coming up against, but I'm still a very, very firm believer. But I think it's been a historical trend around here where people that maybe haven't transacted for 15 or 20 years still gravitate to the Age on a Saturday because that's what they've known last time they bought real estate.
Yes.
They went to the Age and they flicked through that.
Yep.
The benefit of, I think, the weekly review we have here, which is the glossy, which goes through a couple of municipalities.
What does that cost for a page?
About 3,000 per page per week.
That's the cost for our entire campaign.
It's
over 4 to 6 weeks.
It's
another world.
It's another world. It's another world.
Yeah.
But it.
I'm cringing right now.
I don't know if we get a house photograph for that. People, because the weekly review, it's delivered in everyone the letterboxes in the municipalities that the buyer's likely to come from anyway.
Yep.
So it's like a giant letterbox drop, but everyone wants it. We get complaints when people don't receive their weekly review, so we know there's readership, we know there's engagement from the marketplace. But it's that and we talk about it, the internet by far is the greatest source of buyers finding property, but the print media process is great for bringing the home's attention to those aren't necessarily in the market every day.
Get it.
What we tend to find is people would go, oh, geez,
fickle buyers,
fickle, passive.
Yeah, get it.
And they'll pick up the paper and go, wow, look at that house, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Then they go to the internet to research it, have a look at the floor plan, look at statements of information, etc., and get a bit of an understanding. So we tend to find it captures, then they go through the sort of research discovery stage before they make contact with us. So once again, it's a catchment strategy by being in print.
Yep.
And I think the thing is, though people say print is dying, like everything, has a resurgence. Yeah, online's great, and we see every trend return, a la handwritten notes.
Yeah.
Like a handwritten letter.
Yeah.
you look at a handwritten letter and go, look at the effort.
Yeah.
But 10 years ago, everyone did it. But look at the effort that someone's gone to put it on paper.
Yeah.
And I think you'll tend to find there'll be a trend, and I think it's the first agents in those markets that are bucking the trend of the decline of print are going to stand out again.
Right.
Now, because everyone go,
right.
If you're looking at, say, do you have a Progress Leader type publication?
Yeah. We've got several publications that have got inserts.
Yep. Well, if you look at that, the agent that starts supporting it is going to stand out.
Right.
Quickly in the consumer.
We're going to delay this so I can get my team onto this.
Yeah, no worries at all.
Based on what's trending.
If you're picking up the paper and go, all right, there's not much in there.
Yeah.
Bar Harcourts. You're Harcourts, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
But you're Harcourts Cranbourne.
Yes.
You've got 3 or 4 pages in there. They'll go, these are the guys only doing anything. It's perception.
Right.
And it's not necessarily for the buyer that day, it's for the seller tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
They go, oh, these guys are doing everything because no one else is in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's the first to buck that trend, to really support it.
Good point.
To learn how to sell marketing will benefit from it not only to the current vendor clients but to themselves long term.
Yeah, I get it. We do find when we've got a standout property that is way over that a local buyer can't afford, if we promote that home that's in our area in an external paper, a paper that's circulated in a neighbouring suburbs, we find that we get inquiry on it, so it works.
It works,
and typically it's an out of area buyer that can afford it, that just misses out on marginally on that similar. We might have the lap pool and might have the man cave, and they can't quite get that affordability in that area, that their core area that they want to reside in, and they retreat back to a neighbouring suburb. So what you're saying makes sense.
It is much. It
makes sense.
You're widening that net, and I think we talk about zig when everyone's zagging. Buck the trend, stand out for the right reasons, and like Warren Buffett, he buys when everyone's selling. He sells when everyone's buying.
Very true.
He bucks the trend. The same. To really defy the downward trend in print in your areas. Make yourself stand out.
Very much so.
But once again, it's a training and it's a mindset thing. Because some people go, oh no, vendors aren't going to want to contribute and participate in print. But they're already defeated if they've got that mindset.
Get it. And that paper, that weekly Times is circulated in the letterboxes in the area. Is that right?
So all through Stonington or Burundara. So it's got about 140,000 household coverage.
Very good. You've been watching Get Real with Andrew Casamatti. Subscribe below. Feel free to comment. Look forward to seeing you again next week.